The moment Jasmine Crockett walked onto that studio stage, you could tell she wasn't here to play nice. The lights were hot, the cameras were rolling, and every network exec behind the scenes was already half nervous, half thrilled, sensing something electric in the air. This wasn't a panel. They'd accidentally booked a political death match. Crockett was polished, unbothered, and ready for blood. And sitting smugly across from her, with that arrogant half-smirk like he owned the damn place, was Donald J. Trump. They called it a town hall, but that was just dressing. This was war, televised in real time. CNN had been hyping the segment for days, a conversation across the aisle, as if that meant anything when one side was sitting on a pile of lies and the other brought receipts. The air in the studio was tight, like a balloon about to pop. Trump had just wrapped up a whirlwind of rallies filled with the usual rants about rigged elections, migrant invasions, and how he personally invented jobs, love, and apparently oxygen. The man had been talking for months like he still ran the country, like he didn't lose the last election by both the numbers and basic decency. Be honest, if it were you on that stage, would you have stayed calm like Crockett or dragged Trump with zero mercy? Drop your answer in the comments. Team calm or team clapback? There's no wrong answer, but there is a right side of history. So when the producers told him Crockett would be joining the segment, he laughed. Said that lightweight, like she wasn't a Harvard-trained shark in heels. Like she wasn't the one person who could gut him on national television without raising her voice. Trump expected applause. Crockett brought silence. That scary, waiting kind of silence. She stepped up to the mic and looked at him the way a teacher looks at a loud kid who's just failed every quiz but still thinks he's the smartest in the room. And then it began. The host barely got through his first question, something about bipartisan solutions, when Trump leaned forward and tried to hijack the mic's same old trick. Say it loud, say it often, never let the facts catch up. But Crockett wasn't here to play along. She turned her head slowly, not flinching, not blinking, and said the line that cracked open the night. You're not a president. You're a problem that got too much airtime. You could hear a pin drop. No laugh track, no applause sign. Just gasps. The sound of raw truth, unfiltered. Trump froze, blinked like he didn't understand the sentence. And for the first time in a long time, he looked small. This was no debate. It was a takedown in slow motion. Crockett didn't yell. She didn't interrupt. She waited. Let him unravel. Let him walk straight into his own tantrum. And by the time he exploded, screaming about nasty women and fake black politicians, she didn't need to say another word. She just tilted her head, almost disappointed. America was watching. So was Twitter. And so was every Republican strategist holding their head in their hands, whispering, "Oh, God, not again." This wasn't just a bad night for Trump. This was the beginning of a public meltdown he couldn't spin away, couldn't meme away, couldn't bully his way out of. The airwaves didn't just shake that night. They cracked. And Crockett? She didn't flinch. The set looked more like a high-budget courtroom than a studio. Sharp edges, polished wood, blue lights bouncing off everything like they were prepping for a presidential hologram. But there was nothing high-tech about the tension. This wasn't a debate. It was a televised ambush, and everyone knew it. Jasmine Crockett walked in late on purpose. Not out of disrespect, but because she knew walking in second gives you control. When you walk in first, people size you up. When you walk in last, they've already decided, and then you flip the whole table. She wore all black. No pearls, no flashy earrings. Just a cold stare and a tiny gold pin shaped like a microphone. A subtle reminder. She came to speak, not to smile. Across the stage sat 3 other guests, all carefully chosen to look like balance. A washed-up Republican governor who still wore flag pins like Boy Scout badges, a bootlicker from a corporate news site pretending to be a journalist, and finally, the wild card, Trump himself, slouched back in a leather chair like he owned the planet. The host, Martin Kelly, a man who used to be respected before he started chasing ratings harder than facts, shuffled note cards and fake calmness. He wasn't ready. Nobody was. Trump had shown up 10 minutes before the taping, demanding a better chair. He wanted his name lit up behind him. He wanted Crockett to sit where the camera angle caught her from below, made her look less powerful, he'd said, like a high school bully directing the yearbook photo committee. The producers nodded, then ignored him. You can only kiss so much ring before the hand starts slapping you. Crockett sat down. No handshake, just a nod. Not disrespectful, just done with the act. The audience wasn't large, maybe 50 people, all background noise for the chaos about to unfold. Some wore MAGA hats. Some held their breath. One woman clutched her phone like she was waiting for permission to start recording. And then the show began. Tonight, Martin began, we have a very important discussion. Trump interrupted before the sentence could land. You mean another fake conversation where I'm the only one telling the truth? He scoffed. The audience half laughed, half cringed. Crockett didn't blink. She leaned slightly forward, resting her chin on her fingers. Calculated patience. She didn't even look at him. Martin pushed through the intro, reading off a prompter like it might explode if he mispronounced a syllable. We're talking crime, race, the 2024 campaign, and who's really looking out for the American people. The camera panned across the table. Crockett's eyes were still fixed on Martin, not Trump. That alone made him twitch in his seat. He was used to being the main character, even in rooms he didn't belong in. The questions started soft, predictable. Crockett played it cool, correcting false data, quoting real bills, slicing through nonsense without raising her voice. Trump, on the other hand, talked like he was still behind a rally podium in some cornfield with flags blowing behind him. Loud, confident, empty. But it wasn't until the third segment that the show flipped. Martin turned to Crockett and asked, "Do you think Trump's policies hurt black communities?" She didn't rush. She sat back, tilted her head, and then quietly, she said, "I don't think they hurt black communities. I know they did. I live there. I don't need a think tank to tell me what I already buried my neighbors from." The room froze. Trump laughed, the kind of fake laugh you use when your ego takes a gut punch and you pretend it didn't hurt. Another dramatic performance. She should run for Hollywood, not Congress. She turned to him, finally, and said, "I'd rather act like I care than lie like I never did." And that was the moment. The camera cut to Trump. He wasn't smirking anymore. He looked confused, uncomfortable, like a man who just realized his old tricks weren't working. The crowd didn't laugh this time. They sat still. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. They were just watching. And Jasmine sat there, quiet again, the only person who looked like she knew how this would end. Trump was already slipping. He didn't know it, but everyone else did. His jabs weren't landing. His smug interruptions were starting to sound more like recycled voicemail messages than insults. The crowd wasn't laughing. The host had gone silent. And Jasmine Crockett? She looked like she was watching a man boil in his own sweat. Then came the opening. Martin asked Trump about January 6th. "Do you regret anything about the Capitol riots, Mr. Trump?" he said, carefully choosing every word, like a man tiptoeing across broken glass. Trump leaned forward, gripping the sides of his armrest. "Regret? I regret that the people were treated unfairly. I regret that patriotic Americans are sitting in jail while thugs are burning down cities and getting book deals." There it was. That same line he'd thrown out 100 times. A lie worn down to the nub. But this time, Crockett didn't let it slide. She didn't cut him off. She waited, which made it worse. She let the silence stretch so long that Trump actually looked over, unsure if she'd missed her cue. She hadn't. She adjusted her mic, sat up straighter, and calmly said, "Sir, the only thing those people were fighting for was your ego. And the only reason they're in jail is because they believed a man who wouldn't even walk with them, wouldn't even drive down the same street, just hid behind bulletproof glass, tweeting like a coward in a bathrobe." The air snapped. Trump's eyes widened, caught off guard. That wasn't a jab. That was a direct shot to the gut. She didn't stop. You talk about law and order like it's a costume. You put it on when it suits you and toss it when it doesn't. Those people stormed the Capitol, smeared feces on walls, tossed police, all while waving your damn name like it was a golden ticket to chaos. And you, the man they did it for, have never even said their names. Not one. Not until someone asks if you regret it. And even then, you dodge like it's a parking ticket. The audience didn't breathe. Martin leaned back. The tech crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. This wasn't a hot take. This was a political eulogy, and Trump was the body on the table. Trump chuckled weakly. That weird, Sharp laugh he does when he's cornered. Oh, please. You sound like Joy Reid on steroids. All drama, no facts. Another angry liberal pretending to be tough. Jasmine smiled, but it was the kind that made people nervous. She tilted her head, slow and steady, then delivered the line that broke the internet before the show even ended. If I'm pretending, sir, then you've been cosplaying as a president since 2016. Bad wig, fake tan, hollow words. The only thing real is your fear of women who don't flinch. Boom. It hit so hard the studio lights might as well have flickered. Trump blinked again. He opened his mouth, then shut it. The silence swallowed him whole. Not even a MAGA fans in the audience could fake clap after that. Martin cleared his throat, unsure whether to move on or run. Trump shifted in his seat. His face was flushed, not just red, but the kind of blotchy purple you only get when rage and embarrassment are fighting for control. His right hand reached for the glass of water beside him. He missed it the first time. Jasmine stayed still, her eyes locked on him like she had more in the chamber. But she didn't need to keep firing. That one line, bad wig, fake tan, hollow words, was already being clipped, subtitled, and plastered across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and cable news. Every Gen Z editor in the country was adding bass drops and rewinds to it. It was already out of her hands. Trump had come for TV gold. Instead, he got televised humiliation. And the best part? She hadn't even raised her voice. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed yet, maybe it's because deep down, you're not ready to admit Trump finally met someone who put him in his place. Or worse, you still think yelling counts as leadership. Prove us wrong. Hit subscribe, like the video, and tell us in the comments where you stand. We have a target to hit 50 subscribers before the end of April, and you can make this happen for us. Please subscribe. He snapped. Not all at once, no. That would have been easier to clean up. Trump's breakdown came in layers. Ugly, sputtering layers, like a statue of denial melting under studio heat. Right after Jasmine Crockett delivered her fatal line, Trump sat there frozen, lips twitching. The silence stretched just long enough for him to realize no one was coming to save him. No camera angle, no staged applause, no loyal lackey to throw a distraction grenade. Just him, the woman who bodied him with surgical precision, and millions of viewers watching him get cooked in real time. And then he exploded. You know what? Trump barked, his voice rising 3 octaves too high to be taken seriously. You're rude. You're nasty. You're disrespectful. This is why people don't trust black women in politics. They're angry, they're loud, and they think they're better than everybody. Gasps. Literal gasps from the audience. Even Martin, the host, visibly recoiled like Trump had slapped him across the face with a shoe. Jasmine didn't move. She didn't flinch. That made it worse. He wanted her to react. He wanted her to raise her voice so he could play victim. Instead, she just tilted her head again. Same calm, cutting look. That teacher watching a child throw a fit expression. She wasn't even trying to argue anymore. She was letting him sink. And he did. This show is rigged, Trump shouted, jabbing a finger in the air at no one in particular. This is a setup. They brought her on here to ambush me. She's not even a real congresswoman. She's a puppet, a radical puppet. Martin attempted to step in, raising his voice for the first time that evening. Mr. Trump, we need to keep this respectful. Well, shut up, Martin. Trump shouted, slamming his palm on the desk so hard the mic jolted. You're just another ratings chaser trying to stay relevant while your network tanks. I built this country. I gave you 4 of the best years you ever had. And this is how you treat me? You should be thanking me. It wasn't even coherent rage anymore. It was a child mid-tantrum who dropped all his talking points and now just wanted to break stuff. Producers scrambled behind the cameras. Phones buzzed on silent. Twitter had already exploded, but this was a golden moment. You couldn't script this kind of public unraveling. Trump stood up, not calmly, not like a man making a statement, but like a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving who thinks standing gives him authority. His mic cord tugged. His chair screeched across the floor. He pointed at Jasmine, his hand shaking. You're fake. Your numbers are fake. Your voters are fake. You're not even smart. You're just loud and lucky. That's it. You hear me? Lucky. And Jasmine, still seated, still calm, responded with just 6 words. "You sound scared. And very small." Boom. Like lightning splitting a tree. Trump tried to keep yelling, but his voice cracked. A dry cough hit him mid-rant. He reached for the water he had knocked over earlier. The cup was empty. Karma has good timing like that. Martin motioned for a commercial break. The producers ignored him. They weren't about to cut away from this. Ratings gold. Historical meltdown. Let the man self-destruct. Trump turned to leave, nearly tripped over the chair leg, and then shouted over his shoulder, "You'll all regret this. All of you." The crowd didn't even boo. They just watched, dumbfounded, not in shock that he was doing this, but in awe that he really thought it was helping. He stormed off, or tried to. He took the wrong hallway at first. A stagehand had to quietly guide him back toward the right exit. The camera caught it all. Jasmine sat still. Same calm face. Same slight smile. Martin slowly turned to her, and, with the weakest voice of the night, asked, "Would you like to respond to anything he just said?" She looked into the camera. "No, I think he already did." And just like that, Trump's meltdown became the main event of the night. Not policy, not discussion, just the sound of a once powerful man coming apart live for everyone to see. The studio air was still humming from the storm that had just blown through it. Producers were scrambling to restore some sense of control. Camera crews whispered into their headsets, and Martin was trying to look composed as the segment limped on. But backstage, just 30 feet from the set, something else was happening, something no one was supposed to hear. Trump, red-faced and jittery, was being rushed into a private holding room by a security team. But microphones don't care about egos. One of them, clipped to his suit jacket, still hot, caught every second of what followed. And someone, bless their soul, left the feed running. He slammed the door behind him. "She's a damn plant," Trump barked. This whole thing was a setup. Who the hell let her on that stage? You did this. He jabbed a stubby finger into his press aide chest. The aide, a 25-year-old kid who once dreamed of being a journalist before selling his spine to MAGA PR, stood frozen. "Sir, you approve the guest list. I did not approve that woke hyena with the mic. You set me up to get embarrassed. She made me look like Biden with a Wi-Fi issue." There was silence. Then a voice from behind the monitor curtain whispered, "Mike is still hot." Too late. Trump, still mid-rant, yanked at his tie and tossed it like it was choking him. "I'm the show, not her. I built this network's numbers. I made that loser host. And now I get ambushed by some second-rate Maxine Waters knockoff with a good tailor." A boom mic operator standing outside the room mouthed the words, "Oh my God." Inside, the tantrum rolled on. She had a line ready. "You saw it. That wasn't real. That was written. Probably by George Soros and the Clintons. They probably rehearsed it. She's got handlers. Probably plugged into her earpiece. She's not smart enough to say that. That wasn't her, okay? That was AI. That was ChatGPT." The staff didn't say a word. They knew better. A comms girl by the door slowly reached for her phone and started typing. Not because she was taking notes, because she was live tweeting every word under a fake account. This was the kind of meltdown that made careers. Then the sound everyone feared came next. The slam of a hand against drywall. "Fix this," Trump roared. "You hear me? Fix it. Call Fox. Call Newsmax. Call Kanye if you have to. Spin it. Say she was disrespectful. Say she was rehearsed. Say I let her win out of respect. Just fix it." And then, footsteps. He stormed toward the door, thinking the cameras were long off, thinking he had a moment to recover his image. That's when Jasmine Crockett appeared. She hadn't gone to the green room. She didn't need to. She walked right into the hallway, still in her seat clothes, holding a small water bottle. She looked rested, calm, like she just wrapped up a yoga class, not a public evisceration. Trump froze. They locked eyes. Crockett smiled, small, confident. Then she said, without breaking her pace, "Next time, bring a policy instead of a panic attack." And she kept walking. Trump looked around to see if anyone had heard. They had. A few interns behind the camera pretended to cough to hide their laughter. One cameraman bit his knuckle like it was 2007 and he was watching a WWE comeback. But here's the kicker. The mic was still live. And within 20 minutes, that entire rant was clipped, captioned, and trending. Hashtag Trump meltdown. Hashtag hot mic from hell. Hashtag Crockett 2024. Hashtag orange crushed. Even worse, the full audio leaked to a satirical podcast that layered it under a remix of Destiny's Child Survivor, and it charted on TikTok within hours. By the time Trump found out, the damage was permanent. Late-night hosts were already rehearsing jokes. The Lincoln Project was halfway through a new attack ad, and Jasmine, she was getting offers to do a Netflix special titled Clapbacks in Congress. And to think, he thought he was going to walk in, steal the spotlight, and leave with applause. But all he walked away with was drywall, dust on his cufflinks, and a mic that refused to keep his secrets. By the time the studio lights cooled down, the internet was already boiling. TikTok didn't even wait for the network to upload the full clip. Some genius with lightning fingers recorded the Crockett line off their screen, slapped subtitles on it, and dropped it under the caption. Sis dropped the mic and set it on fire. Within 11 minutes, it had 1 million views. Instagram Reels followed suit. A remix had her calm stare looped over and over, paired with a bass drop and strobe effect as Trump's face went from smug to somebody just pulled the rug. The soundbite, "Bring a policy instead of a panic attack," was already trending before Trump made it out of the parking garage. Even the Gen Z crowd, who barely pay attention to politics unless it's in meme format, declared her the final boss of clapbacks. One account made a side-by-side video of Crockett and Nicki Minaj saying, "You can't spell read without CROCKE." And Twitter was a war zone. Hashtags raged like wildfire. Hashtag orange crushed. Hashtag Crockett cookout. Hashtag Donnie got dragged. Hashtag hot mic hysteria. Hashtag Sheehan left no wig. People started uploading reaction videos to the reactions of other people watching the clip. It was a loop of joy, faces of pure disbelief, followed by slow claps, screams, and in one case, a grandma putting her hand over her heart like she just watched her baby graduate and dunk on a racist at the same time. Celebrities chimed in like it was the Grammys. Cardi B tweeted, "Jasmine ain't just read him." She scanned, faxed, and emailed his soul. Rihanna posted a photo of Crockett on her story with a crown emoji and the caption, "When a queen speaks, the clown panics." Even Cher weighed in with, "I've waited 6 years to see someone shut that bloated windbag up live. Worth every second." The clip made it to Reddit's front page. Multiple subreddits, /politics, /public freakouts, /made me smile, and even her /memes started dissecting it like it was the Zapruder film. Users posted freeze frames of Trump's face right after the fake tan, hollow words comment, zoomed in, enhanced, annotated like it was NASA footage. And the memes? Endless. One had Jasmine's head photoshopped on a Thanos, with Trump as Iron Man disappearing into dust. Another was the classic WWE meme where The Rock holds a mic while Trump's face is edited onto an unconscious opponent. And a particularly savage one, Trump edited into a kindergarten classroom while Jasmine stood with a ruler, writing "Respect Black Women" on the chalkboard. News outlets couldn't keep up. CNN called it a modern political mic drop. MSNBC ran the headline. Trump knocked off script. Crockett takes control. Fox, in full meltdown mode, attempted to call her disrespectful and unhinged, but even their viewers weren't buying it. The clip was just too good, too sharp, too clean. Even MAGA Facebook groups couldn't come up with a lie quick enough to beat the footage. Meanwhile, Crockett was silent. She didn't tweet, didn't repost, didn't like or retweet a single thing. That silence? It made it worse for Trump. The internet read it as, "I said what I said." And honestly, she didn't need to say another word. The world was speaking for her. Late-night hosts had a field day. Trevor Noah couldn't stop laughing. Stephen Colbert opened his monologue by reenacting Trump's walk-off, complete with tripping over the chair. Samantha Bee declared, "Forget Congress. Give Jasmine a Netflix roast special." And the best insult of all? The Trump campaign tried to spin a moment by saying Crockett was part of the media machine trying to dismantle real Americans. They posted a 5-paragraph rant to Truth Social. But only one sentence got attention. She's not smart. She's just loud. That line backfired so fast, it practically caught fire. TikTok creators stitched the quote with clips of Jasmine calmly reading through actual legislation, owning Trump without even raising her voice. The irony? He sounded louder than anyone else on the stage. She had spoken in facts. He had screamed in fear. She stood still. He fell apart. And for once, America didn't need a think piece to know who won. Trump was furious, and not in his usual they stole my spotlight kind of way. This was worse. He wasn't just embarrassed. He was wounded. Not physically, not publicly, but somewhere deep in that swollen ego of his, something cracked. And the sound of it breaking echoed louder than the applause Jasmine Crockett never had to ask for. The morning after the on-air meltdown, Trump's mansion in Mar-a-Lago felt more like a bunker. No golf carts, no red hats, just a line of aides and lawyers pacing through marble halls, trying to spin one of the worst political faceplants in modern memory. His phones wouldn't stop buzzing, not with support, but with silence. Donors ghosted. Strategists duck calls. Even his most loyal backroom lackeys, the ones who usually fed him flattery like candy, were texting each other things like, "I think it's finally over," and "Is there any way we blame this on Biden?" He stormed through the gold-trimmed hallways, tie undone, hair limp with stress sweat, yelling into a phone on speaker. "Tell Hannity to book me tonight. I need to respond. I need to clear the air. Say it was edited. Say it was AI. Say the whole thing was a deep fake." The aide on the line, a poor soul named Brett, stammered something about needing more time. "We don't have time," Trump barked. "She's going viral like it's Beyonce at Coachella, and I'm out here looking like Jeb." That name, Jeb, hung in the air like a curse word. Trump hated being compared to losers. But last night, he didn't just lose. He got wrecked, clowned, and remixed into oblivion. Desperate, Trump called in the cleanup crew, an old circle of spin doctors who hadn't been relevant since Rudy Giuliani still had eyebrows. They huddled around the breakfast table like crisis managers trying to salvage a burning clown car. "We leak a rumor that she cheated," one of them said. "How do you cheat in a conversation?" another asked. "I don't know. Say she had an earpiece. Say Obama fed her lines." Trump waved it off. "Too easy to disprove. I need something better. Bigger. Say she threatened me." "With what?" "Facts," someone mumbled under their breath. Trump ignored the jab. He stood, walked to the window, and stared at the palm trees like they might give him a solution. Then, he had an idea. "We spin it," he said, voice low. "We say, I let her win." The room paused. "Excuse me," one aide asked. "I'll let her win. As a gesture. To show I'm a gentleman. To give the angry libs their moment. That's leadership. You give them a W and they get cocky. Then I come back and finish her in the debates." He was serious. He really thought the public would believe he voluntarily got humiliated on live TV to play 4D chess with a congresswoman who had just vaporized his last shred of dignity. They nodded, because when your job is to lie for a living, you learn how to fake belief with Olympic skill. The next move? Flood the web. Fake accounts started posting sympathy clips, badly edited ones. In one, Trump was dubbed to sound calm and presidential, but the background still had audience laughter from when he called Crockett nasty. In another, they tried to overlay dramatic music over his rant, like he was delivering a speech from a war movie. It backfired instantly. TikTok users turned it into a meme soundtrack for people quitting their jobs dramatically or toddlers throwing tantrums in Walmart. Meanwhile, Trump recorded a shaky response video on Truth Social. The lighting was awful. The camera angle showed too much neck. He stared into the lens and, with forced calm, said, "The media loves when a man like me gets disrespected. They love loudmouths who pretend to care about America. But I let her have that moment. I wanted the people to see what happens when the left gets a little attention. They gloat, they scream, they insult. But I stayed composed." He said this as clip after clip showed him flailing, yelling, sweating, coughing, and nearly tripping over a chair like a sleep-deprived contestant on a game show. And the internet? It wasn't buying it. Even Fox News ran the headline. "Trump claims, I let her win." Viewers say nah, she took it. His approval numbers took a hit. Not with his base. They'd worship him if he barked like a dog and blamed it on communism. But with the donors, the pundits, the quiet power brokers who'd been waiting for a reason to back away. Crockett, meanwhile, still hadn't said a word. No follow-up tweets. No victory laps. Just silence. And that silence burned him more than any speech ever could. Because Trump wasn't used to losing. He was used to lawsuits, handshakes, fake cheers, and a TV audience that clapped when told. But this time, the world laughed without cue cards. And Jasmine Crockett, she was already back to work, probably sipping coffee somewhere, reading about herself being called the queen of calm destruction, and not even blinking. The smoke had cleared, but the sting remained. Across the media landscape, Jasmine Crockett's name now floated like a crown jewel of clarity. Calm, calculated, brutal without being loud. And Trump, once the loudest man in any room, was left pacing corridors, talking to mirrors, tweeting into the void, and pretending the burn marks on his ego were just liberal smears. He hadn't tweeted anything new in 24 hours. That alone was proof of trauma. For a man addicted to his own noise, silence felt like suffocation. The question now whispered across networks, printed on op-eds, and dissected in group chats wasn't what just happened. Everyone saw what happened. The question was, will Trump strike back? He wants to. That's certain. You don't take a public beating from a black congresswoman and slink away into retirement. Not when your brand depends on chest puffing and fake alpha energy. He'll try to respond. He'll try to rally. But the punch Jasmine threw wasn't just a one-liner. It was a shift, a moment, a checkmate. And now, every room he walks into will feel different. Every camera turned toward him will carry the shadow of that night. Every voter who once cheered his tough talk will now remember the look on his face when Crockett called his whole existence a performance. And he had nothing left but yelling and sweat. So yes, he'll try. Of course he will. But will it land? That depends on you. Because if you watch this entire video, if you witnessed this political collapse in 4K and still didn't subscribe, maybe you're still waiting for Trump to win a round. Maybe deep down, you like the lies, the tantrums, the mess. Or maybe you just don't care enough to say, that woman won, and I want more of that. But if you're here because you know the difference between chaos and leadership, if you watched Jasmine Crockett roast a man who spent years roasting the truth, and you thought, finally, someone said it, then hit that subscribe button. Not because it's polite, because staying silent is what he counts on. Leave a like, drop a comment, tell us where you're watching from. Whether you're in Brooklyn, Birmingham, or Lagos, this story hit us all the same way. With heat, with truth, with clarity. And while you're down there in the comments, answer this. If Trump dares step back into the ring, do you think he can actually win a second round? Or is he just begging for another beatdown with better lighting? One thing's for sure. If it happens, we'll be right here. And Crockett, she'll be waiting. Make sure you don't miss what happens next. Hit that bell. Hit that sub. Or don't. And admit Trump's meltdown made you uncomfortable. Either way, the truth was televised. And now it's your move.